Junkyard Love Podcast.
I did promise a Q&A to those who might be tuning in. If
Sure.
you're still down, are you still good on time for that?
Yeah, I don't even know what time it is. So
Yeah. It's about 12:45 here in Beha, Texas. So it's 2 hours before that where you're at, my friend.
yeah, I still have as much time as you need.
Okay. Oh my gosh, my sister already hooked us up. Thank you, Katie. Shout out to Katie. You're the best.
Yes, for sure.
She is a wonderfully creative individual. Anybody who's listening, please check out all of her stuff. She creates new stuff every single day. She's badass. Okay. All right, Mr. David Crayk. This one's from Katie. I myself have used my own childhood struggles to help children in our community to find some strength and healing when they need it. You were one of my mentors in my younger years who have taught me to do so. Because of your own battle with depression/mental health, do you believe it made it easier for you to see that struggle in your students, helping you to know which students may need a little more guidance?
Absolutely. I mean, it was really made me sensitive to their needs. And, what's really interesting is I didn't feel like I did anything different. I just was myself, right? And like I said, I never used judgment. I gave them a safe place to be and to create things and to just hang out. And some of them told me their problems. Some of them kept it to themselves. Some of them solved their own problems. I just was a steady influence. And I think it did make me more sensitive because, and they probably didn't know I was depressed, when I was teaching them, but I was. And, like I said, it's been a lifelong struggle. And yes, it does make you more sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I coped with it. So, they see me coping. And of course, they didn't see the depressed individual. They just said, hey, Mr. Crayk, the guy that makes class fun, and that was powerful.
Yeah. I mean, to me, to really think about the fact that you did everything that you did, you were like you were the person that I saw in my mind. Like I really interact with you and you've genuinely affected me. But to know that also at the same time, you're dealing with depression. I think that's so powerful to know, like everybody listening is like, you don't need to, I think sometimes I myself get obsessed. Like I need to heal my depression and not be a depressed person. So then I could save the world. Like, like, no, even when you're sad, you have an impact on people, you could still make action, and
yes.
Yeah. That's what I hear from your response.
And, they didn't see, they seemed vulnerable, Mr. Crayk, all the time. I was vulnerable. You saw who the real guy, right, all the time. I was never different. I didn't play any of those stupid games. I didn't try to, wage psychological warfare to get things from students. I just was myself and I just led them that way. And it rubbed off on everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, you just reminded me of this too. I'm sorry, I'm so selfish, everybody. I have to bring in my own stories. But I actually had written it as a note. I remember, I don't remember if it was senior year or junior year, but it was at the end of the year. So we weren't going to see each other either indefinitely after graduation or summer. And I remember you had some nice words to say. You kind of gave like the class a speech. I'm sure you were telling us you were proud, whatever. You cried. I remember. I remember it. I feel like I could picture the moment in my mind actually to this day. I want to thank you for crying, man. I think at that moment, I didn't have any male figures around me who crying was a cool thing to do. And it was very admirable when you were genuinely giving us, like you were thanking us for, you were just authentic there. And it was very important for me to see at that time in my life, to a grown man that I admired greatly, to shed a tear, because tears are real,
Yeah. I'm not afraid to shed tears. That's for sure. In fact, I actually have shed a couple since we've been talking.
Yeah, I have a couple. It's there's a breeze in here. Someone cutting onions actually in the kitchen, I think, is probably what's going on with me. But cool, man. Well, okay, so that's one question. Katie, feel free to my phone's off airplane mode now too. So if you need to talk to me, you're fine. Are you ready for another question?
Sure. Yeah,
cool.
Fire away.
This one is from the legendary, I hope he's been good, Blake Hull. He was my class as well.
Oh, yeah. I
always
Blake.
admired Blake. Blake was one of the most intelligent people I ever met. I remember him and Josh Warwick.
Creative beyond belief.
Dude.
And talented. He did some amazing things on that stage.
Yep. Okay, well, so he came with the question. Hey, Blake, man, thank you for throwing in the question.
Wow,
And
it's great to
all,
hear from you, Blake.
yeah, I feel like I'm excited. I haven't heard from Blake. I feel like I need to
Yeah,
link up with
I haven't
Blake after
either.
this. Okay, so in all of your years of teaching, mentoring, and working with people, what's one truth about human connection that remains constant?
Human connection. I would say just that whole idea of being yourself and listening to people and not judging them, to me, makes all the connections. Because when you judge people, then automatically the other person gets defensive, right? And if you show them kindness and love, I mean, that's the strongest emotion of all. Actually, love is actually even a choice and an action. And I really feel like that's what I communicated to everyone, that I love them, in a really pure, and we could change that to respect, right? I respected them. I didn't talk down to any of them. I challenged them if I did anything. And I made them have, like I said, a safe place to be. But that human connection where you just don't judge and you listen and you generally care and it's kind to others, that's the best way to connect.
Yeah, yeah, well said. I like that. That's a perfect answer. Okay. I'm not even going to caveat that one. I'm not even going to put a cherry on top of that one. It's cherrified. Okay. We have,
Wow, what a great thing to hear from Blake. Wow.
I
I
have
just got a
one,
vision of what he looks like
right?
in my
Yeah.
brain. Yeah, what he
I had a
used to
lot.
look like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Hopefully he's grown up a little bit. Um, we have one more from Blake too. This is so good. Based on your experience teaching kids across many subjects, English, drama, and special education, for example, what are the most valuable lessons you've learned over the years?
Kids don't want to do the wrong thing.
Mm,
If you give them an opportunity to do the right thing, they will do the right thing. They don't come to school to try to misbehave. Nobody
right.
really wants to be that way. So he mentioned special education. A lot of people don't know that I actually spent more time teaching kids with disabilities than I did anything else. And one of the things that I was is, I know you guys might think I was a good drama teacher, but you never saw me teach kids with behavior disorders. That was truly my God-given skill, or if you want to say so. There was time and time again where I was, called to really difficult to take care of difficult kids and help them learn. And that's what I did the best. I mean, I was really the best. In fact, the last 4 years of my teaching, after I left Kelso, I taught kids with behavior disorders, and I probably did my best teaching ever. I mean, I pulled out all the stops, and I was always positive with them, and they were always used to people jumping to the conclusion that they're these criminals, or
Yeah.
they were going to misbehave and all that stuff. I caught them when they were being good. And I had everything structured, and I had the system where they could tie into. They would get their time, some things for them to do fun, but I needed to have time with them to teach them what we need to teach them, right? And so it was like a bargain. And, the whole time I would just make them feel safe. And they were like, man, this guy gives me rewards. I would always have, it was reward, so they could work for rewards. And when I punished them, it wasn't like, oh, you're going to get kicked out of school, or you're going to go down to the isolation tank or anything like that. I withheld the rewards. I said, hey, you didn't work for your reward. You lose the reward. Sorry, I got to hold you accountable. This is what you're working for. So let's work for this. You can get this. So do this, this, and this, and then you'll get your reward again. I'm sorry you're not going to get your reward because, you're making a decision to misbehave, right?
Mhm.
Or do something that I wasn't, you're not supposed to do. And so, it took away that whole thing that I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm I can earn something. I can achieve. You know, and, you got to keep in mind when you're teaching kids with behavior disorders, they hate school, man.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, so you got to make school fun, or you got to make school non-threatening.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good to threaten them and tell them, you better behave and all that kind of
Right.
stuff, or yell at them or anything like that. You got to ignore the bad behavior sometimes. Sometimes you can't, if they get physical or something, they're going to harm
Sure.
somebody and they're dangerous. That's a different story. But, that was truly a gift that I had. And to exercise patience,
Mm.
it's like, hey, they're trying to figure out who they are too. You can't punish them for being Jacob Rhines. It's
Yeah.
like Jacob Rhines, he's developing his personality, like I've seen people, they just, they make it personal. It's like you're misbehaving, and all this kind of stuff. It's not like that. They're doing that for a reason. They're misbehaving. They're communicating something through their behavior. And that's what you have to decipher,
Yeah.
you know? And they're not bad. Nobody comes to school trying to be bad. They just don't. They want to
Yeah.
do good. And so when I start showing them success and showing them that they can be good and they can make the right decision, success breeds success. And next thing the whole the classroom, everybody's learning or they're having fun when they earned it.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
bottom line is they're not being, you know, bullied or pushed aside or misunderstood or anything like that. They're
Yeah.
just being shown kindness and love. And it comes down to kindness and love all the time.
Right.
It always comes down to kindness and love.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Like just by you saying yes to that part of them gets to have the life. I kept thinking of I know it's a little cheesy, but the term namaste, the light in me sees and honors the light in you. And I know it's like a yogi thing, but I even try to bring that in. Like, okay, how can I see the best in this individual? Oh, they have an idea, for me to be just encouraging to go, man, that's a cool idea. I like that. I think you could do that. And if I'm being honest, and most of the time it's like pretty easy to go, yeah, dude, I think you could totally do that. And it's incredible how much people light up by just you being encouraging. And I also heard this other thing about a good way to teach people who are you basically point out to them like, hey man, that's not you. Like, I know you're better than that. Like that sort of thing is huge. It's like, and especially with these people who they're probably constantly being told like you're bad or you did that thing again or whatever.
Right.
And it's hard to have a vision of yourself in the future when that nobody else is saying like, hey man, you're greater than that. You're larger than that. And I know it. And let's see it, that's huge. Yeah. Okay.
So I had this one. Oh,
No, keep going. Please. No, please. I don't want to know.
Well, I had this one situation where I was called to a school and they told me, you're the only one that could fix this. And so I was like, hey, I'm retired. I want to stay retired. It's like, I'm happy. And they're like, no, you need to come meet the kids.
Mm.
And I think that, you're the only one that could fix this. So I went to the school, a place called Mary M. Knight. It's out in Elma, Washington. And it was a really super small school. And the kids were just basically leaving the classroom. They were doing whatever they wanted to do. They were telling people to F off, and they were just basically being terrible. So I took a look at all this because I just observed it first, right? I'm like, man, they really do need me. So I caught them all in a circle and said, I'm coming on. I'm going to be your teacher because I made that decision as soon as I watched them because I knew they needed me.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, we've had a string of subs. Screw you, dude. They were all sat around going, flip me the bird and all this kind of stuff. And I said, there's a reason why I came. And I'm not a substitute teacher. I'm a real teacher. And you're going to see that this is all going to stop when I show up on Monday. And it was Friday. I'll be here Monday. And so you better be ready for change because it's going to change. You're going to like the change, though, too. You'll see. So I got there Monday and I told them how things were going to be. I laid out my little program because they spent the whole weekend laying out things for what I was going to tell them on Monday. And they're like, screw you, blah, blah, blah. That's what the last one said, blah, blah, blah. By Wednesday, they were all learning, being good, and doing what I told them to do because they started thinking about the alternative and they started seeing all the things that I laid out for them to work for. And I started treating them differently than the last guy did. and they saw that. And like I said before, kids can spot out the bullshit.
Yep.
They knew I was real, and I kept telling them, I'm not a pretend teacher. I'm a real teacher. You'll see. You're gonna like it. And after a while, they loved coming to school, and they were coming to school, and they were learning it, and they had their time for fun too. I had that built in. Hey, we get down and learn some math, because I taught them all the subjects in special ed, right? And they were high school students, and they were so bad they couldn't really go into regular classes by themselves, because then they'd have to go into somebody else's world that controlled things.
Right.
But the next year they started going into regular classes too. And I supported them, and we still had the incentives for them to behave themselves. And the next thing you know, they found out, hey, things are kind of going pretty good for me now that I'm behaving myself.
Right.
And then the rest of the year, before that, the campus was almost out of control, because these kids were running around, jumping in classes and throwing things at teachers, and for classes they weren't even in.
Oh, geez,
It's ridiculous. But I'm just saying, the bottom line is I showed them kindness and love. I had a system all set up for them to tap into that was non-threatening. It didn't attack who they were and all that kind of stuff. And so they started complying. And, they started calling me the kid whisperer there.
Yeah, that's perfect.
They couldn't believe it. So, as good a drama teacher I was a better teacher of behavior disorder kids.
Yeah.
I had a way with them.
You're a teacher of love, man.
And it's the greatest force on the earth. I mean, why not use it?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's always love is always trying to happen. And sometimes we get in the way, or we block it, or we reject it, or whatever. But I feel like it's always a flow that's always trying to happen. And sometimes it's like we got to find a way to not reject against it or try to grip onto it, but instead to kind of, this makes me think of like lift your legs up and let the flow of love guide you to where you're supposed to be, where you're needed.
As a teacher, it's really easy to teach the motivated. I mean, some of the colleagues I had at Kelso, they were really they were good teachers. They disseminated the information, and they got the good kids to achieve. But I always took on the ones that weren't motivated.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference. That's not easy to motivate people that are unmotivated, and school's an unhappy place for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's where the real talent lies. I mean, I had this one guy that was teaching English with me. I'm not going to mention his name, that was teaching with me at Kelso, and he was revered as a teacher there. And I think he deserved all that. But if a kid would step out of line and not do what he asked him to do, and everything was really regimented in his class, right? I mean, you had like a packet of work even. And I was actually forced to do that too, because he was kind of the charge of the whole department. And, of course, I did my own little twist on that. He probably never knew. But he would, next thing I know, I'd have that kid would be in my class. He would transfer that kid into my class. I mean, there was other English teachers that could have, they could have gone to too, but he they didn't toe the line, so they can't be in my class. And the next thing you know, he would come, the kid would be on my doorstep, and I'd have this kid that was uncooperative in his class, and next thing you know, I was only supposed to have 30. I'd have like 40 kids in my English classes, because I was getting the good kids that he didn't want. And what he had left over was all the good kids that were motivated, and I got all the ones that were unmotivated.
Right,
But you know what? Didn't have like a problems with them, because they came in, and they went with my program, whatever I had going on. I taught English a little bit different, but I still made English fun. I threw the drama elements in there.
Yeah.
I kind of cast away a lot of the stuff. I threw things like poetry in there, Shakespeare, things like that. And, my class became interesting. So people wanted to stay.
Yeah,
But
you were able to reach them where other teachers just simply weren't.
And, I mean, in a way, it was courageous for him to realize, hey, I'm not good with these kind of kids, but I know who he is.
Yeah, heck so, yeah.
That's what he did.
Yeah, a beautiful thing. Yeah, and in the end, the kids benefited, so you reached more people than you would have if you didn't take them on.
Well, and ultimately, what would have been the difference? The kid would have ended up getting suspended or whatever, kind of power struggle they were having,
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Let's go with. Thank you, Blake. Those are two wonderful questions.
Yeah, I like again, wonderful to hear from him.
Yeah, Blake's an awesome guy. I hope you're doing well, Blake. This one's from Morgan Blackford.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's somebody from Morton, where I taught before I came to Kelso.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the question, Morgan. Morgan says, Mr. Crayk, you've been one of the most impactful teachers in my life, always just a phone call away, ready to be the best sounding board anyone could ask for. Your wisdom and support over the years have meant the world to me, and I can't thank you enough. Looking back on your career, what has helped? Looking back on your career, what had helped you to stay positive through the challenges of teaching and mentoring so many students? And was there a particular moment or lesson that reaffirmed your passion for education?
Well, first thing I want to say to Morgan is, who let the dogs out? So I, I don't think there was a particular lesson or anything that I did. And what's really interesting is when Morgan was my English student, and I don't know, Morgan, were you in my Spanish class? I'm not sure. But so they came to me and said, hey, our Spanish teacher's, she's battling an illness and she's not going to be here next year. We want you to, in fact, she might not be here for a couple of years. They go, this is at Morton. They said, we want you to teach Spanish. And I went, I don't hardly speak a lick of Spanish, dude.
No habla English?
Yeah. I was like, Spanish? I'm going to teach Spanish? They go, yeah, we think that you can do it. And, besides, your wife is bilingual. I go, yeah, that'll help me. She won't even be in my classroom. So I said, are you really serious? Yeah. And in fact, we'll let you teach English too. And so I taught Spanish there, and the classes there most of the time we only had about 10 or 12, 15 kids in it because there was only like 130 kids in there from 9th to 12th grade. It was really small, the school I came from. But I would have like 40 kids in my Spanish class. So we went from like virtually not having anybody take Spanish to like 1/3 of the school taking Spanish. And, I did things like play bingo with them and I sang Spanish songs, like yeah, Feliz Navidad and all this kind of stuff, right? So I try to make it as fun as I could, which is really, that's my opus operandi, right? And I went to almost virtually every sporting event. And I had this chant where it was well, actually it happened before the song Who Let the Dogs Out. I would stand up, and the Morton's mascot is the husky, and I'd stand up and go, "Who let the dogs out?" And everybody would bark. And when I did this, like I would, we traveled all over the southern part of Washington, playing in all these little small schools, and I would stand up and say, "Who let the dogs out?" And if anything that I remember about Morton, I mean, I'll be known for that. And it got to the point where I actually went over there. We were playing this school called Monster Rock, which was way better than us. And it was in our general area. In fact, my kids went to Monster Rock. And one day I got this inspiration to make all these signs and go over in the middle of the night and put them on their lawn. All these signs that said, "Who let the dogs out?" and all this kind of stuff, right? And the next time, so we played them like the next day and we beat them, and we weren't, predicted to beat them. And I would have this Rooter bus. I would lead the Rooter bus, and I'd have, like I said, there's only 120 kids there, and I'd have like 50 kids in this Rooter bus, and we'd all come into this school at Monster Rock, and the whole place was jam packed, and everybody's going, "Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?" and all this stuff, right? And we ended up upsetting them, and we had no business of beating them. It was one of the great victories we ever had, probably in the history of Morton, even though they've had a lot of success in sports. But anyways, so they were, because this is both small towns, they were so upset over these signs that were left by the students of Morton. Of course, it was just me. I snuck over there, and put all these signs. So when they got there in the morning, they seen all this stuff. I also drew this chalk thing about beat the Vikings and stuff like that. I drew in the middle of the night and everything.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is they had some vandalism later. and they wanted to. Then they called over
That
to the
was you
school.
too, wasn't it?
No, they wanted to know where I was that night, and I go like I would commit some kind of
Where's your alibi?
vandalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. They wanted to know what my alibi is. And it was really ridiculous. But so that was really inspiring to me. And the whole time I was at Morton, no matter what I taught, I always stayed true to myself. I tried to make everything fun. And like she said, that I mean, there was a really small town, and I was a small school, and everywhere I went, I had eyes looking at me all the time. So I was an exemplar, person.
Hmm.
And I just was a solid guy that was hanging out with the kids all the time, doing things for them and helping them. And I just saw that as my role. And I mean, that's what true leaders do. I mean,
Hmm.
I was leading them. Probably they would have never even went to those Rooter buses. They wouldn't have taken pride in their school. At that time they weren't really that competitive. They started to become competitive as time went by, but at that time they were second to Mossy Rock and some of those other schools that were out there.
Yeah.
But we changed that. We
Yeah.
changed that. And
Yeah.
I would start sometimes in my English class. I would go, we're going to go over to that little village, Mossy Rock, and we're going to beat them. I would give them pep talks. I would spend the first 5-10 minutes talking about it, and they would crack up because I'd call the Mossy Rock a little village.
Yeah. So you brought
Anyway, so
fun
that's
to it,
what I
man.
remember
Yeah.
most about, and that's what, frankly, that was just so inspirational, that whole period of time. And I really miss Morton and those days with those kids. And I'm still in contact with a lot of those kids, as you know, Morgan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've helped Morgan as an adult. I've given her help in other ways. Like I said, sometimes they ask for advice.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What a great example of what we were just talking about before.
Yeah, and what a great kid. She was, she's a woman now, but
Yeah.
what a wonderful person.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you for the question, Morgan. Dude, I just thinking about you teaching Spanish is so funny to me, but it's such a great example of who you are. Where they're like, you're going to teach Spanish, and you're like, what? Spanish, but okay. And sure enough, you taught Spanish. You know what I mean? Like it's just like such a perfect example of like just lean in. Like, yes, you can. I think that's so awesome, man.
Yeah, that was really a stretch, but I did it.
Yeah, well, I'll hire you. I'll hire you to be my Spanish teacher. I never really picked up much of Spanish. Well, nowadays we're gonna have these. This is a side note that's not that important, but the technology to where we could have a headphone in and it translates in real time as someone is talking to you. I mean, how fascinating is that?
That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, but we still need good Spanish teachers.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
good drama teacher, sped and Spanish teacher hybrids as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got another great one from Blake. Go figure. If you could eavesdrop, I like this one. If you could eavesdrop on a conversation between your past and future self, what do you think they'd be saying to each other?
Well, the past self would probably be telling me that to continue to follow your muse and be true to yourself. And my future self would say, "Good job, Dave. You really, you took the road less traveled, and it has made all the difference. And um, you know, you had a great career, great run. Only had one chance at it. It's like I came up to the plate, the bases loaded, and I hit a grand slam.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have any regrets. I probably was a lot more um, volatile back in those days. Like I said, I've become more of an observer. I'm still as creative as I used to be, even though I did achieve some great things on that stage in Kelso. But I continue to do that now, even if it's in my personal life or, the spiritual advising I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Taking care of my 3-year-old great grandson. So,
Yeah,
and that's one thing I never did is I never was untrue, right?
yeah,
I stayed true
yeah.
to the vision, to the path. And man, you talked about passion before, and I was like, I was so passionate about what I did. I just love teaching.
Contagious.
And yeah, I just translate that passion to everybody.
Yeah. Well,
And then
I'll just say as an admirer of you, I mean, I think I'd be proud of myself if I got to your position where I could look back and go, you did it, man. I think,
yeah,
yeah. I aspire to be in that position that you're in, man. I think that's awesome.
I'm not done yet either.
Heck yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
Still got plenty of life, man.
Sure do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool that you're impacting people. Yeah. Still to this day, you're still helping so many people.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was the gist of our Q&A. I think we're probably fairly up here in time. I think if you're anything like me at this moment, your bladder's probably pretty full, man. So I think
Actually,
we could.
no, I'm fine.
Oh, okay. Well, just speaking for myself, then my bladder is pretty full. I do want to.
Okay.
I want to round the corner here. I think I kind of covered all the questions that I had. I think naturally everything that I kind of wanted to explore just fell out of you. So I'm content, man. I really want to thank you for this conversation and thank you for agreeing to do it. And I mean, just as someone who was deeply impacted by you just as a person, like, thanks, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. And this has been a great honor, and it's been a great honor to teach all of you, whoever's I taught that is tuning in right now. You don't know how proud I am of most of you, and in fact, all of you really. And that was a really great time of my life that I'll always treasure. And even though I have to move on now because I've gone to a different part of my life, I look on that fondly, and a lot of you are still in contact with, and it's really great to hear those words of affirmation from you that I had some kind of effect on your life positively. I haven't heard anybody say that, hey, you screwed things for me or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And probably if I did I'm sure I had some critics. No, not sure. Yeah, absolutely sure I had critics.
Yeah.
That comes with the territory when you're a guy like me. But the bottom line is I know I really influenced a lot of people, and man, I just treasure all that. And I never realized it was going to be as impactful as it did. I mean, it just humbles me to think about the journey that I went on. It's too bad that it's over, but we all have to kind of face that in our lives. And
Yeah.
I just want you to know that I all love you, and that comes from my heart.
Yeah. Well, we love you too. My sister specifically texted me and said, make sure you give him my love, please. So from me and my sister, big hug.
Yeah, I treasure every minute I spent with your sister. What a creative and talented person she is.
Yeah, I wish she would shower though. You know what I mean? Like she just the smell. It's like, got him. I couldn't resist throwing one of those in there.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, thank you so much. We will close the door on this thing. Is there?
Okay.
So I'm gonna put like a description and everything. If you're willing, I can put like how to reach you on Facebook, or is there anything that you want to promote, or any like poetry or books or any like you got anything you want to set anybody towards or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm always just myself, and that's what I have best to offer, I guess. But if anybody needs any help, you where to get hold of me here on Facebook, and feel free to message me anytime you need help. I can't guarantee I'll give you the answers, but I'll do my best. So that's all I can do. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm here for anybody.
Oh man. Okay. Well, now I'm bummed that this has to end, but
yeah, me too.
Yeah, thank you, man. Well, hey, maybe we should do it again sometime. I don't plan on stopping this dang podcast, so maybe in a few months we rekindle or something.
That'd be fine with me. Just let me know.
Cool. All right, man. Well, listeners, thank you guys so much for your time. If you happen to be listening on the final posted video, I would love if you would consider hitting follow, subscribe, like, comment, or review. All that typical stuff. I don't do any of this for money. I'm not trying to get anything from you. I don't have anything for sale. This is my passion project. But if you enjoyed it and you think other people might benefit from it, it does help for you to click follow. As far as listeners in your own health, please, as I always end all of these podcasts with, stretch, drink some water, slow down, go outside, get a little sun on you. Whatever you're angry about, whatever's going on, it's probably the magic rectangle phone that's telling you to be mad. Go outside, relax. You're all good. And dare to be different.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, I'll talk to you soon, man. I'll message you here shortly in the next couple of days, and everybody just stay tuned for the final product. Within the next 2 weeks, I'll be editing and posting some clips and making the audio sound all tasty and all that sort of stuff. So,
very cool.
Cheers, everybody. Dave, have a good rest of your day, man. I'll be in touch shortly.
All right, take care.
Namaste, everyone. Knowledge is power.